They said it was impossible. He proved them wrong. Hello, my there friends. Welcome back to my channel, where we uncover the most inspiring stories that prove nothing is impossible. No matter who you are or where you come from, one thing is certain. Every great success story begins with struggle, doubt, and people saying, "You can't do it." Today, I want to share with you an incredible story. It's about someone who faced countless obstacles, heard the words, "You'll never make it," more times than he could count, and was told to give up over and over again. But instead of listening to the doubters, he made a choice. He chose to believe in himself. Just imagine being in his shoes. Every time he tried to take a step forward, someone was there to push him back. Every effort was met with failure. Every door slammed in his face. Have you ever felt that way? Like no matter how hard you try, life keeps throwing challenges at you? If so, then this story is for you. People laughed at him. They mocked his dreams. They told him he was chasing the impossible. But what they didn't know was that deep inside, he had something powerful: determination, a fire that couldn't be put out. And instead of giving up, he used every failure, every rejection, every painful moment as fuel to keep going. And now, the whole world knows his name. The same people who once doubted him now tell his story as an inspiration. The same ones who said he'd never succeed now look up to him as proof that anything is possible. This isn't just his story, it's a lesson for all of us. Because if he can prove them wrong, then so can you. If he can turn rejection into success, then so can you. And by the end of this video, you'll see exactly how he did it, and how you can do it too. So stick with me, because what you're about to hear might just change the way you see your own journey. Let's dive in. Life wasn't easy for him. In fact, it was the complete opposite. From the moment he was born, the odds were stacked against him. He didn't come from wealth or privilege. He wasn't given a head start in life. He grew up in a place where dreams were nothing more than fantasies, where people didn't dare to believe they could be more than what life had given them. From a young age, he faced hardships most people couldn't even imagine. His family struggled to put food on the table. There were nights when he went to bed hungry, wondering if things would ever get better. His parents did their best, but the weight of poverty was always there, pressing down on them like an unshakable burden. And if that wasn't enough, life threw even more obstacles in his path. He wasn't the smartest kid in school. He wasn't the most talented. In fact, his teachers told him he would never amount to anything. They said he wasn't capable, that he should settle for an ordinary life, that he should stop dreaming of things that were never going to happen. But deep down he wanted more. He had a fire inside him, a desire to prove that he was more than what the world saw. But no matter how hard he tried, life kept knocking him down. Rejection after rejection, failure after failure. When he applied for jobs, they turned him away. When he tried to learn something new, people laughed at him. When he put his heart and soul into his passion, the world ignored him. Every door slammed in his face. Every opportunity disappeared before he could even grab it. At one point, he started to believe what they said. Maybe they were right. Maybe he was wasting his time. Maybe success wasn't meant for someone like him. And then came the lowest moment of his life, the moment where everything felt hopeless, the moment where he was ready to give up. He had tried so many times, only to fail again and again. He had put everything he had into his dreams only to be left with nothing. There was no one to encourage him, no one to tell him to keep going, no one to say, "You can do this." It was just him, alone with his doubts, staring at the reality of his failures. Most people would have given up right then and there. Most people would have accepted defeat. Most people would have walked away and said, "Maybe this just isn't for me." But he wasn't like most people, because deep inside there was still a tiny voice telling him to keep going. It was faint, almost drowned out by all the negativity and self-doubt, but it was there. And for the first time in a long time, he listened to it. This was the moment that would change everything. It all came down to this moment. After countless failures, rejection, and crushing disappointment, he had reached the point of no return. He had hit rock bottom. He was standing on the edge, looking at the world and wondering if there was any reason to keep going. That feeling of hopelessness, it had consumed him. It felt like all his dreams were just distant echoes. Once loud and hopeful, now barely a whisper in the background of his struggle. But in that darkness, something stirred. A spark. At first he wasn't sure what it was. It wasn't something new. It was a feeling he had buried long ago, something that had always been there but had been drowned out by the noise of failure. But it was undeniable. The moment he allowed himself to stop and listen, he heard it. "You can still do this." It wasn't a loud voice. In fact, it was so quiet that for a second he thought it was his mind playing tricks on him. Why keep going? He asked himself. The world had already rejected him. Every attempt had failed. What could he possibly do that would be different? And yet, that tiny voice inside him didn't give up. Just one more try, one more step. So he did something he had never done before. He made a bold decision. He decided to believe in himself, no matter how silly it seemed. He wasn't going to wait for anyone's permission, approval, or validation. He wasn't going to wait for the world to acknowledge him. He was going to change his own story. And if that meant walking a path no one else believed in, so be it. But that wasn't all. He didn't just sit back and wait for things to magically get better. He had learned, after all these years of struggle, that nothing would change without hard work. No one was going to hand him success. No one was going to make it easy for him. He had to take action. For the first time, he approached his dream with a different mindset. He stopped seeing failure as the end. Instead, he began to view failure as a lesson, a stepping stone to success. Every rejection, every setback, became an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to improve. The key wasn't to avoid failure, but to embrace it and use it to fuel his determination. And then came the game changer. He found a mentor, a person who had walked the path he wanted to walk, who had faced the same struggles and overcame them. Someone who didn't just give him advice, they gave him the guidance he needed to truly believe in himself. They didn't sugarcoat the reality of success. They told him it would be hard, that he would have to sacrifice, that he would have to push past his limits in ways he never imagined. But they also gave him something more valuable than any advice. They gave him a roadmap. With this mentor's guidance, everything started to make sense. He understood that success didn't come from waiting for the right moment or hoping for good luck. It came from creating opportunities through relentless work and unwavering belief. It wasn't about having the perfect circumstances. It was about making the most of what you had. no matter how little that might seem. From that moment on, everything changed. He put in the hours. He worked late into the night. He sacrificed weekends, free time, and moments with family and friends. He pushed himself to his limits because he knew the only way out of his struggle was through it. There was no shortcut. There was no easy way out. If he wanted to make something of himself, he had to earn it. And with each passing day, he got better. Slowly but surely, he started to see progress. His efforts were starting to pay off. What used to seem impossible began to feel attainable. But it wasn't easy. The road was still tough. There were moments when doubt crept back in, when the fear of failure threatened to paralyze him once more. But this time, he didn't give up. He pushed through. One of the hardest things he had to face was the sacrifice. He had to give up certain comforts, things that had been a part of his life for so long. Friends, family gatherings, his social life, they all took a back seat. He knew that if he was going to succeed, he had to commit fully. He had to let go of distractions and focus on what mattered most: his dream. But as the months passed, the small wins started to add up. He began to see real results. People started to take notice of his progress. He didn't have to shout to be heard. His work spoke for itself. And with every step forward, his confidence grew. He no longer doubted his abilities. He no longer wondered if he was good enough. He was finally becoming the person he had always known he could be. And then came the moment of validation, the breakthrough. He landed his first big opportunity. It wasn't a huge deal, but it was everything. It was his chance to show the world that he was capable. It was his chance to prove to himself that all the sacrifice, all the hard work, all the moments of doubt had been worth it. He took that chance, and he crushed it. It wasn't a fluke. It wasn't luck. It was the culmination of everything he had learned, everything he had sacrificed, and everything he had fought for. At that moment, he realized the truth. He had changed the game. And then it happened. All the hard work, all the sacrifices, all the failures, everything came down to this one moment. The moment where the years of struggle, the sleepless nights, and the doubts finally paid off. It was a victory so sweet, so overwhelming, that he could hardly believe it was real. He had done it. He had reached the peak, the place where the impossible had become possible. And in that moment, as the applause rang out and the lights shone brighter than ever before, he knew that everything had led to this: the triumph. It wasn't just a win in the conventional sense. It wasn't just about achieving something grand or earning recognition. No, this was something deeper. This was about proving to himself that he was capable of more than he had ever imagined. That all the pain, all the doubts, all the struggles had been worth it. That he had made it. The championship he had fought so hard for, the business he had built from scratch, the dreams he had nurtured for so long, all of it had come to fruition. But the journey was far from over. It was a triumph, yes, but also a new beginning. He stood there, looking out at the crowd, his heart racing, not because of the fame or the recognition, but because he had proved to the world and to himself that he was stronger than any obstacle life had thrown at him. And then, the people who had once doubted him began to react. Their faces, filled with disbelief, slowly transformed into admiration. The same people who had told him he couldn't make it, who had mocked him, who had brushed him off as someone who would never amount to anything, now stood there, watching him rise to the top. He remembered their words so clearly. "You're not cut out for this. You'll never make it. You're wasting your time." And yet, here he was, standing tall, holding his victory, proving every single one of them wrong. But their reactions weren't just about the personal triumph. It was about the ripple effect. Society, once indifferent to his dreams, was now taking notice. People who had dismissed his goals as impossible were now talking about him as an example of what hard work and perseverance could achieve. He wasn't just an individual anymore. He was a symbol of triumph over adversity. The social media posts started flooding in. Headlines began to spread like wildfire. From failure to success, the incredible story of someone who defied the odds. News outlets were eager to share his journey. People everywhere were inspired by the story of the person who refused to give up. The message was clear. Success wasn't for the lucky few. It was for those who kept going, no matter the circumstances. But what meant the most to him wasn't the media coverage or the praise from strangers. It was the reaction from his family. His parents, who had seen him struggle for years, who had seen him cry in frustration, who had watched him sacrifice so much, now looked at him with tears in their eyes. They couldn't believe what he had accomplished. It was more than just a victory for him. It was a victory for everyone who had supported him along the way. His success was a testament to their unwavering belief in him. He remembered those late-night talks with his mom, who always told him, "You are capable of anything, but you have to keep fighting. Don't give up." Those words had been his anchor, even in the darkest times. And now, as they embraced, he knew that this triumph wasn't just his. It was theirs, too. And his friends, the ones who had stuck by him, who had seen his struggles firsthand, were the loudest cheerleaders in the room. Their faces lit up with pride as they watched him win. They had believed in him, even when everyone else had written him off. They knew his potential before anyone else did. And now they were there, celebrating his triumph with him. But the real magic came when the doubters began to speak. The people who once laughed at him, who once dismissed his dreams as unrealistic, began to admit what they had been too proud to say before. "You were right." The same voices that had tried to tear him down were now standing in awe of what he had achieved. At first, it was a quiet realization, a murmur among his critics. Then, the tone began to shift. He saw them whispering to each other, looking at him with respect they had never shown before. They couldn't deny it anymore. He had done what they said was impossible. He had turned failure into triumph. And then came the ultimate moment, the one that sealed his victory in their eyes. He stood in front of them and smiled, not in arrogance, not in anger, but in quiet satisfaction. It wasn't about revenge or proving them wrong anymore. It was about showing them that no matter what they thought, he had always believed in his own potential. He had never needed their approval to succeed. His journey had always been his own, and the best part? He wasn't done. This wasn't the end of the story. No, this was just the beginning. This triumph was only a stepping stone to something greater. He knew that with each victory came the responsibility to push even harder, to climb even higher. The victory was sweet, yes, but he had bigger dreams now, and he wasn't going to stop until he had achieved them all. As he stood there, surrounded by applause and admiration, he knew one thing for certain: the best was yet to come. And so, the journey comes full circle. You've seen the struggle, the sacrifice, the pain, and you've watched the triumphant rise. But there's one more thing we need to talk about. The most important lesson of all, the one that defines the true meaning of success. Because this wasn't just about the victory. This wasn't just about the accolades, the recognition, or even proving the doubters wrong. This is about something much deeper. Something that everyone needs to understand, whether you're on your own journey to greatness or facing an impossible challenge right now. The real lesson is simple. Never let anyone tell you what you can't do. For years, they told him he wasn't good enough. They said he wasn't cut out for it. They mocked his dreams and his ambitions, making him feel like an outsider in a world that was too big and too harsh to welcome him. Society told him that his background, his failures, his past, all of it would define him. They told him he wasn't capable of greatness. They said, "This isn't for you. You don't belong here." But he didn't listen. And that right there was the difference. He chose to believe in himself. You see, the world is full of critics. There will always be people who tell you that your dreams are too big, too impossible, too unrealistic. There will always be voices trying to pull you down. And in those moments, it's easy to start doubting yourself. It's easy to listen to the negativity, to let the weight of their words crush your spirit. But you don't have to accept that. He didn't. And look where it got him. This wasn't just luck. This wasn't just a chance break. This was the result of one simple, powerful decision. He chose to keep going. When everyone else said quit, he said not yet. When everyone else told him you can't, he said, "Watch me." And it wasn't easy. It wasn't quick. It wasn't smooth. There were days when the weight of it all almost broke him. But he never gave up. And that is exactly why he succeeded. It doesn't matter where you come from, what you've been through, or what people say you can't do. What matters is that you believe in yourself enough to push through the obstacles, silence the doubters, and prove to the world that you are capable of achieving greatness. If you believe in yourself, there is nothing that can stop you. Not the setbacks, not the failures, not the haters, and certainly not the fears. The truth is, you are the one who gets to define your potential. You are the one who gets to decide what's possible. You are the one who holds the key to your success. And if you refuse to give up, you will see just how powerful you really are. This story is a reminder that no one knows you better than you know yourself. And if you believe in your dreams, no one can take that away from you. So, as you go on with your day, whether you're facing challenges or maybe even feeling like giving up, remember this: the journey isn't over. Your victory is still ahead of you. If you keep going, if you keep believing, if you keep fighting for what you want, then one day you'll look back and see how far you've come. Just like he did. You have the power. You have the strength. And the world is waiting for you to show up. If you believe in the power of perseverance, if you believe that anyone can overcome the odds with hard work, faith, and determination, then you're part of this journey too. So here's what I want you to do right now. If you believe in never giving up, if this story inspired you to keep chasing your dreams, then hit that like button. Share this message with someone who needs to hear it today. Leave a comment below and let me know how you've fought through your own struggles, because we're all in this together, and your story could inspire someone else who's feeling down. And most importantly, Don't forget to subscribe so you can stay a part of this journey. Join me, because I'm here to keep inspiring you, to keep pushing you, and to keep showing you what's possible when you never give up. We're just getting started. So, if you believe in the power of hard work, perseverance, and dreams, go ahead. Subscribe, like, and share this message with others who need it. Together, we can prove that success belongs to those who keep going no matter what.